Welcome back for another deep dive.
Hmm.
Today, we're tackling something I think we all struggle with at some point. Loneliness,
Yeah.
and how we can actually build real connection with people. But we're not doing the typical self-help thing.
Right.
We're going to go global. We're looking at how other cultures approach this whole idea.
That sounds fascinating.
And our guide for this trip around the world is this book called From Lonely to Loved: What We Can Learn from Global Perspectives,
Oh, I like it.
which dives into all these cool and surprising ways people find belonging.
You know, what I find really interesting is how different cultures, instead of just giving you individual tips, actually bake connection into their values and even their whole social structure.
Oh, that's a good point.
Maybe it's not just a personal problem to fix, but a problem we need to solve together.
Yeah, I like that. That makes me think of that Margaret Mead quote. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. Maybe we can apply that to loneliness too.
Yeah.
Not changing the world, but changing how we connect with each other.
I like that connection. So, to kick off our global tour, let's head over to Japan. They have this idea called ikigai, which basically means reason for being.
Oh yeah, ikigai.
Now, you might be wondering, what does finding your purpose have to do with loneliness, right?
Right.
Well, it goes beyond just, feeling happy as an individual.
The book pointed out that in Japan, ikigai is really tied to your role in society,
Yeah.
what you contribute to the whole community.
Right. It's not just about what makes you happy,
Right.
but how you fit into the bigger picture. For example, the book talks about elderly Japanese folks forming gardening clubs or even neighborhood watch groups.
Oh yeah.
And it's not just a hobby for them.
Yeah.
It's their way of actively giving back to their community. And while they're doing that, they're making those social connections stronger.
It makes me wonder, because in places like the U.S., it's all about me and personal ambition. Maybe that's why we struggle with loneliness here. We don't link our purpose to something bigger.
That's a really sharp observation. And yeah, it makes sense that ikigai would look different in a place like the US, where it's all about me, myself, and I. Maybe the trick is to find ways to connect those personal passions to something bigger than ourselves.
Okay.
Like through volunteering or being involved in our communities, or even just being a better friend or family member to someone who's really there for the people in their lives.
I'm feeling very inspired to rethink my own ikigai. Right now.
Yeah.
But we got to move on. We've got a lot of ground to cover. So from Japan, let's hop over to Denmark. Now, if Japan is about purpose in society, Denmark has a different vibe. They're all about cozy intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where hygge comes in. Creating that warm, inviting atmosphere that just makes you feel good and connected. We've all seen the pictures, right? Candlelight, fuzzy blankets, good company.
Yeah. Hygge is super trendy right now.
It is.
But it's way more than just how things look. It's like a value they have. Slowing down, being present with loved ones, enjoying the simple things together. It's about making a space where you can actually relax and connect on a deeper level.
Okay, so it's more about the feeling than the stuff, right?
Exactly.
Okay, now here's the thing. In today's world, everything's so fast-paced and we're always online. Do you think hygge can still work? Or is it like a fantasy from a simpler time?
That is a really great question. And you've hit the nail on the head there. It really does show the clash between modern life and these older values. I don't think hygge is impossible, though. It might just take more effort to carve out those little spaces of peace and connection in our crazy lives.
So it's not about changing everything about how we live.
Right.
It's about making little choices that say connection is important.
Exactly.
Putting away the phones at dinner, having a game night with friends, or even just taking a few minutes to actually talk to your loved ones without, distractions.
Exactly. It's those small everyday things that remind us of what really matters. And it's really interesting how this idea of shared experiences also shows up in our next stop, India.
India. The colors, the traditions, that strong sense of community. It makes me think of those amazing festivals like Diwali and Holi, where everyone's out celebrating together. It must be incredible for feeling like you belong.
Absolutely. The book talks about how these festivals are more than just fun. They're deeply rooted in their culture. They actually help strengthen relationships and remind people that they share an identity. It's about celebrating togetherness in a huge way.
It's not just the big festivals, though, right?
Yeah.
The book mentioned how even casual get-togethers and just having a cup of chai together become ways of connecting in India. It seems like connection is woven into their daily lives.
You got it. Even something as simple as sharing chai becomes a way to connect. You pause, chat with your neighbors, swap stories. Those little interactions, they're the foundation of a strong community.
Okay, now I'm craving some chai and a good chat.
Chai.
But let's keep moving. Our next stop is New Zealand. We're diving into the Maori concept of whānau, and it's got a unique take on how family and community fight loneliness.
Whānau usually means family, but it's much bigger than just your immediate family. It includes extended family, close friends, even people in the community.
Oh, wow.
It's about creating a feeling of belonging that goes beyond blood ties.
That's fascinating. It's like creating a family you choose, one that supports you, guides you, makes you feel rooted, no matter who you're related to.
Exactly. And the book says this wider view of family is crucial for protecting against loneliness, especially these days when people move around a lot and might not live near their immediate family.
I wonder, though, because nowadays people are very focused on their own individual lives and their own small families.
Right.
Do you think whānau can still work in a world that's all about me first?
That's a great question, and it's definitely something to think about. Perhaps the key is to adapt whānau to modern life. Create those chosen families within our communities through things we enjoy doing together, or volunteer work, or just by making a real effort to nurture those close relationships we already have.
So it's not about copying the traditional whānau exactly,
Yeah.
but capturing that spirit of looking out for each other.
Exactly.
All right. Well, next up on our global connection tour is Italy. And of course, you can't talk about Italy without mentioning the amazing food.
Oh, the food.
When I picture Italy, I think of long, relaxed meals with family and friends, sharing stories, laughing, and of course, enjoying delicious food. It makes me wonder if their whole approach to mealtime holds a secret to fighting loneliness.
You're onto something. In Italian culture, mealtime is a big deal. It's not just about filling your stomach. It's about connecting with loved ones, sharing stories, and savoring the whole experience of eating together. It's about creating a space where conversation flows freely, laughter is shared, and connections are strengthened.
It's so different from how a lot of us eat today, right? Rushed, alone, staring at our phones or the TV.
That is.
Could it be that we're missing out on a chance to connect by not making mealtimes more special, more about togetherness?
It's definitely something to consider. The way Italians approach meals reminds us that even ordinary activities, like eating, can become ways to connect if we make an effort.
Well, this has made me want to plan a big dinner party.
Me too.
But we got to keep exploring. We're off to South Africa next to dig into a concept that's all about connection. Ubuntu.
Ubuntu. A beautiful concept.
It is.
It's a Nguni Bantu term that embodies the idea that we're all connected, often translated as humanity towards others or I am because we are. It stresses that we're all human, all part of the same thing, and that helping each other is crucial.
That's a powerful idea, but I'm curious how it plays out in real life. Does Ubuntu actually lead to actions, or is it more of a nice idea that people talk about?
Oh, it's definitely more than just talk. It's about kindness, compassion, sticking together, realizing that when others are doing well, we do well too. The book gives examples like people forming groups to help each other out, community celebrations, and even just little acts of kindness in everyday life.
So it's about taking that idea of being connected and actually living it,
Right.
making it part of your actions, your everyday life.
Exactly. Ubuntu is a good reminder that we all do better when we take care of each other.
And speaking of interesting perspectives on connection, that leads us to our last stop for this part of our journey, Finland.
Now, Finland, that makes me think of saunas, beautiful landscapes, and a lot of quiet time. It seems a bit contradictory, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How can a culture that values being alone also be good at fighting loneliness?
It's an interesting contrast, right? But Finnish culture actually has a unique take on connection. They don't think silence and being alone have to get in the way of connecting. They often see them as ways to connect. Okay, that's definitely making me rethink things. The book mentions saunas as an example. People go to the sauna not really to talk, but to just be together in a quiet, reflective space.
Exactly. It's about finding a different type of closeness, one that goes beyond words. A reminder that sometimes the most powerful connections are made in silence.
Wow, that's a big contrast to our busy, noisy world. It makes me wonder if we've forgotten the power of just being present with each other, because we're so used to filling every quiet moment with noise and distractions.
It's a great point. Maybe the Finnish way is reminding us that connection doesn't always need constant talking or doing things. Sometimes it's about just being there, sharing a space, and allowing those quiet moments to happen.
So we've gone from purpose-driven Japan to cozy Denmark, from vibrant India to family-focused New Zealand, from food-loving Italy to the ubuntu spirit of South Africa, and finally, to quiet Finland. What a journey.
It really has been, and we've only scratched the surface. But even from these little glimpses into different cultures, I think we're starting to see that there are many paths to fighting loneliness and creating a sense of belonging.
Absolutely. As we move on to the next part of our deep dive, I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on what all these different cultures have in common when it comes to connection. Is there a single thread that runs through all of them?
That's a great question. And yes, there are definitely some key themes that pop up again and again. We'll dig into those in the next part of our discussion. So, as we think about all these different ways cultures tackle loneliness, it's pretty amazing to see how they've each come up with their own unique solutions, to help people feel more connected.
Yeah, it's like a global tapestry of connection, right? Woven with all these threads of tradition and rituals and shared values.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, are there any common threads that run through all of them? Like, what universal principles, if any, can we learn from all of these different perspectives?
That's the big question, isn't it? And I think to answer that, we need to figure out what are those core human needs that make us want connection in the first place? Because even though the ways people connect might be different across cultures, those basic needs are probably the same everywhere.
I like that. Okay, so let's unpack some of these common threads. When you look at all these different cultures, what are the key themes that jump out at you?
Well, one theme that seems to pop up almost everywhere is the power of purpose, like ikigai in Japan, or contributing to the community in South Africa with Ubuntu, or finding meaning through rituals in India. It seems like having a reason for being, something beyond just ourselves, is a really powerful way to fight loneliness.
Yeah, that makes sense. When you feel like you're part of something bigger, contributing to something meaningful, it gives you a reason to connect with other people and feel like you belong.
Exactly. And it's not just about staying busy, it's about doing things that line up with what you believe in and finding ways to make a positive impact on the world around you.
It's like that saying, find your gift and give it away, right? Maybe that's a big part of connecting with others. Finding ways to share our gifts and contribute to something bigger than ourselves.
I love that. And speaking of sharing, another theme that we see over and over is the importance of celebrating together and having shared rituals. Think about those amazing festivals in India or hygge in Denmark, or even the quiet togetherness of a sauna in Finland. These experiences, big or small, bring people together and create a sense of unity. They remind us that we're all connected by these shared traditions and experiences.
It's like those shared moments, those rituals, become the glue that holds us together, creating a sense of history and belonging.
Exactly. And these rituals don't have to be anything fancy or complicated. Even simple things like having a regular game night with friends, sharing meals together, or going for a walk in nature can become rituals that strengthen our relationships.
And those rituals create a space for something else that seems really important for fighting loneliness. Genuine, face-to-face interaction. In a world that's so dominated by screens and virtual communication, it seems more important than ever to prioritize real-life connections.
Absolutely. Technology can help us stay in touch, but it can't fully replace the richness and depth of being with other people in person. Those Italian family meals, the chai breaks in India, even the silent togetherness of a Finnish sauna, those all require us to show up, be present, and engage with each other on a human level.
It's like we need to remind ourselves that we're not just online profiles. We're real people who need connection, touch, and that sense of shared humanity that can only come from being physically present with each other.
And that brings us to another really important theme that we see in these cultures. Strong support networks, whether it's whānau in New Zealand, Ubuntu in South Africa, or the close bonds created through hygge in Denmark, having people we can rely on seems essential for fighting loneliness and bouncing back from tough times.
Yeah, it's like we're wired to connect, to belong, to know that there are people we can count on when things get rough. And it's not just about receiving support, it's also about giving support, contributing to that network, and knowing that we play a role in the well-being of others.
Exactly. It's that back and forth, that feeling of mutual care and support that creates a true sense of belonging. And it's something we can all cultivate in our own lives, whether it's checking in on a friend who's going through a hard time, helping out a neighbor, or just being more present and engaged in our communities.
So we've talked about the importance of purpose, rituals, face-to-face interaction, and strong support networks. Is there anything else that stands out to you as a common theme?
Yes, I think there's one more that's really important, and it might be the hardest one to embrace in our busy, achievement-driven world. The value of slowing down and just being present.
Ooh, that one hits close to home.
Mm.
I'm definitely guilty of getting caught up in the hustle, always checking my phone, feeling like I need to be doing more, achieving more. But how does slowing down help us fight loneliness?
Well, think about those Italian family meals, the Danish hygge, even those quiet moments in a Finnish sauna. Those all force us to slow down, appreciate the moment, and truly connect with ourselves and the people around us.
It's like we need to create those pockets of peace in our lives, those times when we can disconnect from all the noise and distractions and just be present.
Exactly. And it's in those moments of presence that true connection happens. It's where we can really listen, empathize, and build the kind of close bonds that nourish us.
So it's not just about doing less, it's about being more mindful about how we spend our time and energy, making sure we're making space for the things and people that truly matter.
You got it. It's about shifting our focus from how much we're doing to how we're doing it, from achieving to simply being. And in those moments of just being, of being present, that's where we're most likely to find the connection and belonging that we all crave.
So we've explored these 5 powerful themes for combating loneliness: finding purpose, celebrating together, being present with each other, building strong support networks, and prioritizing presence. As we wrap up this part of our discussion, I'm curious, what resonated most with you?
That's a great question. What really struck me is how interconnected these themes actually are. They're not just separate strategies. They're all woven together, like threads in a tapestry of connection.
I love that analogy. It's like we each get this loom, and it's our job to choose the threads, the colors, the patterns that create a tapestry that reflects our own personal journey toward connection and belonging. But the basic materials, those core human needs, are the same for everyone.
And that brings us to a really important point. Combating loneliness isn't about fixing something that's broken. It's about understanding that connection is a basic human need and actively finding ways to cultivate more of it in our lives. It's about recognizing that we're all in this together and finding ways to make the world a more connected and compassionate place.
Yeah, and maybe it's about remembering that we're not alone in this. We all have the ability to connect, and we can learn from each other, from both our successes and our struggles.
Absolutely. And as we move forward, both individually and as a society, let's hold on to that sense of hope and possibility. Let's remember that even small acts of kindness, those little moments of connection, can ripple outwards and make a bigger difference than we might realize.
Okay, I'm feeling inspired and ready to start putting some of these ideas into practice. But before we get to that, I want to shift gears a bit and explore a question that's been on my mind throughout this whole conversation.
I'm listening. What questions got you thinking?
Well, if loneliness is a universal human experience, like we've been saying, does that mean the solutions are universal too? We've been looking at how different cultures deal with loneliness. But if it's something everyone experiences, maybe the solutions are universal too, right?
It's a really interesting question. And it makes me think about those common threads we've been talking about: purpose, celebration, support, being present. Maybe those aren't just cultural things. Maybe they're like basic human needs that go beyond any specific culture.
Yeah, exactly. Like we're all looking for the same things, meaning, connection, belonging. We just express those needs in ways that are influenced by our culture.
It reminds me of that idea of ubuntu we discussed earlier, that feeling of interconnectedness, that we're all part of something bigger.
Yeah, ubuntu.
Maybe these core elements of connection, purpose, celebration, support, and being present are kind of like threads that connect all of humanity, no matter where we come from or what language we speak.
I like that. A global tapestry of connection, woven with threads of shared humanity.
And the cool thing is that this tapestry is always changing, right? As new cultures emerge and traditions mix and mingle, it's a reminder that the solutions to loneliness aren't fixed. They're always evolving and adapting.
So instead of feeling overwhelmed by how big this problem is, maybe we can find hope in the fact that the solutions are already inside us, just waiting to be discovered and expressed in ways that make sense for our own lives and communities.
Absolutely. It's not about finding the one right answer. It's about embracing all the different ways people experience life and recognizing that there are many paths to connection.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away from this? What's the nugget of wisdom you hope will spark more exploration for them?
If I had to boil it all down to one key takeaway, it would be this. Dealing with loneliness isn't about fixing something that's broken. It's about recognizing that connection is a basic human need and making an effort to cultivate it in our lives through purpose, celebration, support, and being present.
I love that. It's about shifting our perspective from feeling like something's missing to focusing on all the possibilities, from isolation to connection.
And remember, even little acts of kindness can have a huge impact. Calling a friend, helping a neighbor, just smiling at a stranger, these small gestures can create a ripple effect of connection that goes way beyond ourselves.
So to all our listeners out there, as you go about your day, remember that you're not alone. We're all part of this amazing web of human connection. And each of us has the power to strengthen those threads and weave a world that's more vibrant and compassionate.
Go out there and connect. We're rooting for you.